The Galactic Military Academy's combat training hall buzzed with the usual mix of anticipation and nervous energy as cadets from 17 different species prepared for their advanced hand-to-hand combat assessment. The vast chamber, with its polished metallic floors and reinforced observation windows, had witnessed countless sparring matches over the centuries. Today would be different. Cadet Marcus Chun stood at regulation attention, his human frame appearing almost fragile among his towering classmates. The Korathian beside him stood nearly 8 feet tall, their chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the artificial lights. A Vexhi cadet's serpentine form coiled and uncoiled with predatory grace, while the crystalline Zephyrians chimed softly as they moved, their bodies refracting light in mesmerizing patterns. Instructor Veltar, a seasoned Korathian veteran with battle scars etched across his carapace, surveyed the assembled cadets with 4 compound eyes. His mandibles clicked with approval as he began the day's lesson. "Combat efficiency," Veltar announced, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had survived 3 galactic conflicts, "is not merely about strength or speed. It is about understanding your opponent's weaknesses and exploiting them without hesitation." Marcus had heard variations of this speech dozens of times during his 2 years at the academy. As one of only 12 humans in a class of 300, he had grown accustomed to being underestimated. His species was still relatively new to the galactic community, having achieved faster-than-light travel only 47 years ago. Most of his instructors viewed humans as physically unremarkable, not particularly strong like the Korathians, not exceptionally fast like the Velkari, and lacking the natural weapons that evolution had granted other species. "Today we will demonstrate proper joint manipulation techniques," Veltar continued. "Cadet Zexto, select a partner for demonstration." The massive Korathian cadet who stepped forward was notorious throughout the academy. Zexto stood nearly 9 feet tall, his natural armor plating scarred from countless training sessions. His forearms moved with surprising grace for something so large, and his reputation for brutality in sparring matches was well earned. Other cadets had learned to avoid being paired with him after several had ended up in the medical bay. Zexto's compound eyes scanned the assembled cadets before settling on Marcus. A sound that might have been laughter emerged from his vocal. "Slits, the human will suffice, instructor." A ripple of unease passed through the other cadets. Marcus felt their eyes upon him, some filled with pity, others with morbid curiosity. He had sparred with Zexto once before, 6 months ago, and still bore a faint scar on his shoulder from the encounter. "Very well," Veltar clicked. "Cadet Chun, step forward." Marcus moved to the center of the training mat, rolling his shoulders to loosen the tension. He had learned long ago that showing fear only encouraged bullies, regardless of their species. His dark eyes met Zexto's multiple ones without flinching. "The technique I will demonstrate," Veltar explained to the watching cadets, "is a basic finger manipulation designed to create compliance through pain. It is non-lethal but highly effective for controlling an opponent." Zexto's primary manipulator. Arms reached for Marcus's right hand. The Korathian's grip was firm but not yet painful. A professional demonstration, or so it appeared. "Note the positioning," Veltar continued. "The fingers are vulnerable joints." Proper leverage can. The sharp crack that filled the training hall was definitely not part of the planned demonstration. Marcus's ring finger bent at an angle that made several cadets visibly recoil. The human's face went pale, but he made no sound beyond a sharp intake of breath. Zexto's mandibles spread in what passed for a grin among his species. "Apologies, instructor?" The human's bones are surprisingly fragile. The lie hung in the air like a challenge. Everyone present knew it had been deliberate. Zexto's reputation preceded him. Marcus cradled his obviously broken finger, his jaw clenched tight enough that the muscles stood out like cords along his neck. "Cadet Zexto," Veltar's voice carried a warning tone. "That was excessive force for a demonstration. Perhaps humans should not attend combat classes if they cannot handle the training." Zexto replied, his voice carrying just enough innocence to maintain plausible deniability. For a moment, the training hall fell completely silent. Marcus looked down at his broken finger, then back up at Zextol. Something had changed in the human's eyes, a stillness that several of the more observant cadets recognized as dangerous. "My apologies, Cadet Zextol," Marcus said quietly, his voice steady despite the obvious pain. "You're absolutely right. Humans can be quite fragile." He paused, flexing the fingers of his uninjured hand. "We also have excellent memories." What happened next would be dissected in Academy tactical analysis classes for years to come. Marcus moved with a speed that caught even the quick-reflex Velkari cadets off guard. Instead of backing away from Zextul's superior reach and strength, he stepped inside the Korathion's guard. It turned out, had studied their classmates very carefully during their time at the Academy. Marcus had spent months observing Korathion anatomy, noting that their impressive exoskeletons had one critical weakness: the joints where plates met were softer, more flexible, and infinitely more vulnerable. His elbow strike targeted the nerve cluster at Zextul's primary shoulder joint with surgical precision. The massive Korathion's right manipulator arm went completely limp, the neural pathways disrupted by the perfectly placed blow. But Marcus wasn't finished. As Zextul stumbled from the unexpected attack, the human grabbed the now useless arm and used the Korathion's own forward momentum against him. The joint lock that followed was textbook perfect if the textbook had been written by someone with an intimate knowledge of Korathion anatomy and a complete disregard for their comfort. The sound of Zextul's exoskeleton cracking was distinct from the earlier snap of Marcus's finger. This was deeper, more resonant, accompanied by the wet sound of internal damage. The Korathion's agonized screech filled the training hall as his right arm bent in a direction that evolution had never intended. 5 minutes and 37 seconds after Zextul had deliberately broken Marcus's finger, the Korathion was on the floor, his useless arm twisted at an impossible angle, while the human stood over him with the same calm expression he had worn throughout the encounter. "I believe that concludes the demonstration on joint manipulation, Instructor," Marcus said politely, still cradling his broken finger. "Though I should note that Korathion exoskeletons, while impressive, have some surprising vulnerabilities. If you know where to look." The silence that followed was profound. 300 cadets from 17 species stared at the human who had just systematically dismantled one of the Academy's most feared students with clinical efficiency. "Instructor." Veltar's mandibles clicked slowly as he processed what he had witnessed. In all his years of teaching, he had never seen such a calculated, precise response to provocation. The human had not acted in anger or pain. He had acted with the cold professionalism of a seasoned warrior. "Medical team to Training Hall 7. Veltar announced through his cum device, his eyes never leaving Marcus. "And Cadet Chun, report to my office after classes. We need to discuss your understanding of proportional response." Marcus nodded respectfully. "Of course, Instructor. Though I should mention that according to Academy regulations, the response was quite proportional. Zextul broke one of my bones. I broke one of his." As the medical team arrived to treat both cadets, word of the incident spread throughout the Academy with the speed that only truly shocking news could achieve. By evening, every cadet, instructor, and administrator knew the story. A human had been deliberately injured in class and responded with such precise, devastating effectiveness that seasoned warriors were reassessing everything they thought they knew about Earth's newest galactic citizens dotting the medical bay. As a Zephyrian medic carefully reset his finger, Marcus allowed himself a small smile. Humans might be physically unremarkable compared to most galactic species, but they had one advantage that their classmates were only beginning to understand. They were very, very good at learning from their enemies, and they never forgot a lesson.